Welcome into Bucs Insider, coming to you from the Bucs studio, presented by Ticketmaster. Casey Phillips here with Scott Smith and Bri Dix. And you know what? We just keep having coaching news. I love it. It keeps things interesting in the offseason. We got some promotions. We got some new people coming in.
Never a dull moment.
Never a dull moment. The NFL has mastered the offseason never being really an offseason. So first, tell us about the new additions to the squad.
Before I do that, can we revisit our Super Bowl picks?
No.
No?
We
Remember when we did that before the Super Bowl?
I don't recall that.
And one of
I
us
don't
said that they thought Philly would win because the defense
We
was...
can cut this part out later.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yes, the coaches have made some, the Buccaneers have made some coaching moves, and I think there's still some more to come. But what we know that's been reported, the Buccaneers haven't actually even,
Released it yet,
officially released this, but it was talked about at Josh Grizzard's press conference, and it's out there. So one addition to the staff is Kefense Henson. Kefense Henson, who Josh Grizzard intersected with when Josh was a player at Yale. Most recently, Henson's been the, I think, pass game coordinator at Oregon State for the last 5 or 6 years, and was even the interim head coach for a bowl game in 2023. And then we also have the addition of Charlie Strong, who people in this area surely know well because he was the USF head coach for 3 years. He's also been the head coach, at Texas and Louisville, was a 2-time Big East Coach of the Year, and he's had only, in his 41 years of coaching, only one of them's been on the NFL level. That was with the Jaguars for 1 year in 2023. So this is kind of a new era for him. So those seems like some pretty quality additions to the staff.
I think that's great, and I always love when someone wants to bring in, the way Grizzard wanted to bring in Henson, that if he was a player and he was a coach at the time, I love that idea that a player liked the coach enough.
Yeah, right.
I think that's a great sign of the kind of relationship a coach has with the players of, hey, this was a guy who was my coach.
Right.
And I really liked him to now want him to come here, so I think that's great. And then, Charlie Strong, how exciting to already have Tampa connections, which is great. And then, in addition, there were also some promotions. So those were the new faces.
Yes.
Who are the faces who were already here that got promoted?
Kevin Carberry was promoted to run game coordinator and offensive line coach, and then Brian Picucci was promoted to offensive line coach as well. So well-deserved after just the significant strides that the run game took this previous season, going from being ranked last in the NFL to being 4th this past year. Obviously, Bucky Irving led so many statistical categories, led the league in forced missed tackle percentage, and just the way that the offensive line, especially with several new faces, Tristan Wirfs on the left side, you had a rookie center, Ben Bredesen coming in new, so just kind of the cohesion that they were able to have and just really throughout the year being able to have a balanced approach. So exciting to have those faces back.
Yeah, you could hardly have much more of an improvement year over year than the Bucs did.
It's unbelievable. I mean, I don't know how we would even try to find these stats, but how many times in NFL history, in any major category, has a team gone from that big of a jump
to being in the top 5?
It's just unbelievable.
It's like 50 more yards per game. That makes a big difference.
It's a huge difference in the game overall. All right, so those were some of our coaching news. Now, our favorite segment. Can we stump Scott is the question. Actually, we have not enjoyed this segment recently because we have not been able to stump him.
Going for
I feel good about today's.
Uh-oh.
I feel good about it. And it's still fair. It's not like a weirdly obscure thing. It's a fair question. But I'm hopeful third time is the charm here.
I got to keep my 1,000 batting average.
Yeah, good luck with that. Even if you get it wrong, you're still a Hall of Fame baseball player at this point.
2-7 is pretty good.
Bri, can you read us the question that we had sent in by a fan?
With pleasure. Okay, are you ready, Scott?
I guess.
How many Heisman Trophy winners have played for the Buccaneers, and who are they?
Oh, boy. I think you got me.
You think this is it?
Okay, so I know the quarterbacks because when we got Baker, there was a note about this, and so I know 4 quarterbacks, but I feel like there's got to be several more. Like there's probably 6 or 7.
Like you're thinking maybe like a running back here, like some other positions that maybe weren't QB.
Okay, the quarterbacks are Steve Spurrier, Vinny Testaverde, Jameis Winston, and Baker Mayfield. But I can't believe that's it because that's too easy. I assume Bo Jackson doesn't count.
Because that was the key part of the question. Played for,
yeah. The Bucs famously drafted him first overall.
I bet they were also, that was part of them thinking they could,
Maybe I'd say Bo Jackson.
Yeah.
I assume the way the question is worded that Bo Jackson doesn't count. So I've only got 4. If it's any more than 4, then I lost.
Okay, so there were actually 5, and you missed one.
Congratulations.
So only 5?
Yes, only
I
5.
would have thought it'd be more
only
like
5.
6 or 7.
So you missed wide receiver Tim Brown.
Oh, he was here for like 10 games.
Hey.
Seriously, he was here for one season.
Still counts.
It was his last season in 2004.
And we wanted to shout out the fan.
I didn't even remember that Tim Brown won a Heisman.
Look at that.
I would not have.
If
you'd have given me 5 names, I'm not sure I would have picked him as one. I didn't remember the Tim Brown, or if I ever knew that Tim Brown won a Heisman.
The fan who sent it, this is our rule, is that if you stump Scott, then we give you a shout out on the show. And I love that this fan, their Instagram handle, they just go by KC, like the letters, but I get to just say that Casey stumped you. May not be me, but I will still take credit for the name.
All right,
so
good one.
Good
one. We love it.
I got 80% of it.
You did, which is not bad. Again, the batting average, the shooting percentage, you're still doing really well. So yeah, thank you again for sending that in, and we still want more Stump Scott questions. Look how fun that was when we got to stump him.
Kind of
Please.
fun.
It was great for all of us but Scott. So continue to send those in. We really appreciate it. Send them either to myself or Bri on social media.
Yes.
Okay.
And sometimes we'll still have the trivia questions that the fans
We
can
will.
answer.
We'll still, yeah. We've just continued to have good ones from fans. If we don't get one, then we'll go back to also our normal trivia, and then you can continue to embarrass us with that trivia as well. We got to go back and forth, make sure you're still happy about that. Okay, so now another thing we want to do this offseason is we just want to do some player spotlights, looking back at certain things that guys did in the season and recapping their stats, their contributions, and things that stood out to us. So we're going to pick one player on offense, one player on defense, and do a little bit of a recap of what stood out to us. So I know that we're starting off offense, Tristan Wirfs. Not a bad place to start on this team. So tell me what stood out to you about this season.
Well, he became the first player ever to get All-Pro honors at both left tackle and right tackle, had the second lowest pressure rate allowed among left tackles with at least 200 pass block snaps, down from his 8% pressure rate he recorded in 2023. But also, he didn't allow a single pressure in 4 games in 2024, and he was the only player at his position to do that with a minimum of 25 pass block snaps. Can't say enough about the job he did. I mean, just a technician and not only protecting Baker Mayfield, but also just kind of elevating the run game, just with his lateral quickness for kind of those gap duties that kind of became the Bucs' bread and butter in 2024. Just explosive drive blocker, and man, he's as good as it gets at his position in the NFL.
I think the thing that stood out the most to me of all that you said there was how his pressure rate allowed dropped significantly from his first year at left tackle to his second year. I mean, he was already pretty good when he made that move that first year at left tackle, but he's obviously settled in even more, and now he's clearly one of the best, not even close, one of the best left tackles in the game, if not the best.
It's crazy to think that he went through a period of anxiety about this switch, and now we're like, again, All-Pro.
You're still elite.
Still at this position to continue to be improving at it. And again, to your point of that improvement of year 1 to year 2, thinking of it like you would a new player at a new position, that you know he's only going to get more comfortable there. And so to see how well he did his first year, then there was improvement again, just how exciting that is moving forward to this team. So defensively, on the flip side, we wanted to highlight Yaya Diaby. Tell me about this year for him and what we thought.
Well, this is a player like you just described, going from his first to his second season. And everybody remembers that Yaya was really a great breakout story as a rookie, a third-round edge rusher that they drafted mostly because they thought he'd be really good setting the edge against the run, and anything they got as a pass rusher out of him was a bonus. As it turns out, he's a pretty darn good pass rusher, and so to get that in the third round was great. And you look at that, and he had 7.5 sacks as a rookie, and then this past year that dropped to 4.5. So you might be tempted to think he regressed. He went the wrong way in week 2. But you have to look past the stats, and the sack stats. And when you do, it's very, very clear that Yaya took a big step forward and was surely our most effective edge rusher in that rotation, because as a rookie, and also against the run, as a rookie he had 26 pressures and 9 run stuffs, which is when you stop a running back for 0 or negative yards. And he had a pressure rate on pass rushes of 9.1%. This year, he went from 26 to 57 quarterback pressures, more than double, and from 9 run stuffs to 13, and his pressure rate jumped a big jump from 9.1 to 13.3. So it was a very good step forward for Yaya. Yeah, he only had 4.5 sacks, but 2.5 of those came in the last 3 games when it was crunch time, when we really needed those plays. And of course, he was the NFC Defensive Player in the Week for his big impact against the Saints in the last game. And it's funny because I remember writing about it towards the end of the season, and essentially, Yaya just decided, like in December, to stop worrying about the sack stats because they weren't coming. He had two. He had two maybe at that point. He said, and he just decided, I'm not going to worry about the sacks. I'm just going to keep playing, and sacks come, they come. But I'm doing what the coaches want, and it's working, and I'm just not. And then the sacks started coming.
Right.
I guess that's a philosophy that maybe we can adopt. Just don't worry about it.
Just don't worry
about the numbers.
Don't worry about it. And he's someone that I always love meeting players who are just ferocious on the field and then just the kindest,
like a kitten,
gentlest people off. And
Yes.
Yaya is that he looks like this action figure.
Yeah.
Looks like he should just be bursting through walls here at the facility, and is just the nicest, kindest, sweetest person. And also shout out to him that this last week Metropolitan Ministries had a huge fundraiser. He came to it to support, see a lot of people, and he's so good at that. He's shown up at the girls preseason flag football tournament, that he's a guy who does a lot of the asks for community things and just does everything the right way.
Right.
So not only has he been just a great addition on the field, but also off the field. And he's just, as we talk about that, who they want a Buccaneer draft pick to be of the both on and off the field and their mentality, I feel like Yaya's definitely one of those people.
He's that man.
All right, so now we are going to do a stat of the week, and I think this is a really cool thing of looking at these NGS stats of the week and what they can reveal. So tell me, Scott, what we have this week.
Yeah, I was looking through Baker's stats, and one thing that stood out at me, according to Next Gen Stats, is that he threw for 967 yards on passes that were thrown behind the line of scrimmage, so caught behind the line of scrimmage, in 2024, which was not only the most of any quarterback in the NFL this season, but it is the second most for any quarterback in any season since NGS started tracking these things in 2016. So that's that's an indication of what a major part of the Bucs passing game was. And despite a lot of those low A-dot throws, average depth of target throws, the Bucs still had, I think, the third most productive passing game in the NFL, right? And I think it speaks to the number of players that the Bucs had who are so good after the catch, right?
Right. Yeah, looking at, we've talked so much about Bucky. We know that Chris Godwin's been great at it. We know that there's just so many people who, and how nice for a quarterback to know that of when I throw this ball, that's probably not the end of the play, that they're going to keep getting more. That makes such a difference to everybody. So now also we wanted to talk about free agent deep dives. So this is the time of year that the next big thing on the calendar, of course we have the combine, but then it's free agency before you actually get to the draft. And in recent years, we've talked about this and just talked about how we had this eternally long list or the just
key players.
Key players on this list. This year it is not nearly as many quantity-wise or as many of what you think of as your key players. Doesn't mean there aren't some very important names still on this list. And so we wanted to talk about the inside linebacker group. We were going to just pick one, but then we realized kind of the whole idea is almost that whole room could potentially be free agents this year. And so to decide what the team is going to do at that position is going to be so interesting, both from a free agency standpoint and then therefore a draft standpoint. So tell me a little bit for you guys about what stood out about the different guys. Who are the free agents in the room? What are the different things that stood out about the way they performed this last year and what you think the team might do?
Well, Levante David.
Right.
For the third year in a row. He's played the last 4 seasons on a 2-year contract and then a 1 year and a 1 year. So
I think they do that just so we get to keep talking about this. They give us, again, that content every year to talk about everybody panicking about not having a Levante David in the middle.
Well, I think when it comes to Levante, it's probably up to Levante, right? I mean, I can't imagine the Bucs not wanting Levante back if he wants to keep playing, and maybe just one more year.
I think if he was 90 years old, we'd still be like, yes, sure.
Yeah.
And they found a way in the last few years to get the contract numbers right, so it's it's respectful and worthwhile for Levante. So hopefully he's motivated to play again, and they get that done, because also KJ Britt's an unrestricted free agent, and JJ Russell is a pending restricted free agent as long as he gets the tender offer.
Right. So potentially facing mass exodus at that position group, but I think also you're going to see probably a big year for Servassier Dennis, who the Bucs had drafted, and he only ended up playing 4 games and kind of split time with KJ Britt and kind of some of those clear passing situations alongside Levante David on third down. And then he had the shoulder injury that he kind of aggravated and then was put on IR and ended up having surgery. So he missed the vast majority of the season, but I think he could potentially have a big year depending on what ends up happening or who we retain or who the Bucs end up going after in the draft or free agency.
Yeah, and just to circle back to Levante, he's one of only 4 players since the tackles started being tracked well in 1994 who have compiled 1,500 plus tackles, 35 plus sacks, and 10 plus interceptions. And the others are Ray Lewis, who's in the Hall of Fame, Bobby Wagner, who probably will be, and London Fletcher was a very, very good player for a long time. So just think about the season that Levante just put together in his 13th season.
Yep. Yeah. 122 tackles.
Yeah, and
That's
led
insane.
the team. He was a Pro Bowl alternate, so obviously still playing at a very high level. And he also had 5.5 sacks, which were his most in a long time.
Yeah.
And a lot of that was because while Devin White was here and he was such a good pass rusher up the middle, that's who they were sending. And then Devin White departs and like, well, we need somebody to take that up. And Levante goes, okay, I'll do it. And he was great at it.
He talked about a little bit on our show about that idea of how he was very content to send the young buck to go do that earlier on. If he was like, by all means, Devin, you go do that. But then he started doing it again and was like, oh yeah, this is fun. I do enjoy this. So yeah, I think he enjoyed getting to do that aspect of the game a little bit more this last season. And again, proved that he is really good at it. And that's where I think you also saw his mental part of the game that is so strong and that's so important at that position that, you know, he, depending on how he is at physically after playing 13 years, probably whatever deficit he has physically, he's making up for in just that intuition.
He's talked about that.
Yeah, you can tell as he goes to shoot those gaps or predicting where the quarterback's going to go, where he should blitz.
Exactly,
he knows where he needs to go. All right, so we're going to close our show this week with our off-the-field human interest side, and we wanted to promote what is going on right here, right now, actually, at the Advent Health Training Center. That is the 7th annual Girls Flag Football Preseason Classic presented by Advent Health. Okay, this is one of the coolest events we do. We love everything about this. There are games going on both in the outdoor fields and in the indoor practice facility right now. It is the largest girls flag football tournament in the country and the world and the galaxy, the universe, all of it. This is it. This is the largest flag football tournament. This year's competition, are you ready for these numbers? New record mark. It's like basically every year they're just more and more and more people are joining, setting new records. Look at this, 115 teams.
Oh my goodness.
And nearly 2,500 athletes, and it's from 20 different counties across Florida. And see, we were just talking about that with all those guys, Yaya, and that was Jose and CJ Brewer and some guys going out to hang out. This has been incredible. I mean, first of all, the photos are incredible. Look at our team. And these athletes are unbelievable. Whenever I've gotten some free time, I've popped my head out there just to watch, and I'm like, I think we should sign some of them. They're looking pretty good. So yeah, this is an incredible tournament. We just want to make sure that everybody knew this was going on, and make sure you stay tuned for all of our coverage here on it. We got a lot of photos, a lot of videos, and it is a blast to watch. And just a reminder, this is going to be an Olympic sport coming up soon. So commence fandom now, so you're not a bandwagoner in 2028 for the Olympics. This is the time to get on it.
I love flag football. I've been on the bandwagon for a long time.
It is so fun, and I am so jealous. We didn't have it when I was in high school.
That's
and growing up in Texas, where football is all the things, I would have given anything.
Yeah, we just had Powder Puff. Is that what you?
Yep, we had Powder Puff, and
which
that
was like one game. We didn't get a league or
there was no practicing, there was no planning. It was just running around like chickens with our heads cut off. I would have loved this.
And what you said there, that each year we keep breaking records for more teams and more athletes, just shows you the health of this growing sport. And it's just fantastic that's happening. And I think the Buccaneers deserve a lot of credit for helping that grow.
I agree. Yeah, this is definitely, our organization has been on this from very early on, that this has been a priority of keeping, you know, girls and women in sports. And one of their big things they talk about is the fact that this huge percentage of female executives in the business world have played sports.
Oh, wow.
But women drop out of sports at a much higher rate than men. And so trying to find ways to keep women and girls in sports longer, seeing the connection to building future leaders, future executives with this. And I know I felt like being involved in sports was a huge aspect for me of learning how to be prepared for, I mean, obviously I ended up working in sports, which is handy, but for anything, you know, the teamwork and the drive and the commitment and dedication. So it's really cool to watch how the Buccaneers have prioritized this. And yeah, make sure you stay tuned to this tournament going on throughout the rest of this week as well. That is going to do it for us on this edition of Bucs Insider. Thanks so much for being with us. Thanks for Stump and Scott, and we'll see you next time.